After listening to this story, you will never go to a salon without your comb and personal items. Have you ever wondered what the hairs that are left in a stylist's comb after braiding your hair are used for? Think about it. Bella's beauty haven, as it was called, stood tall among other salons. It was not just a place where hairs were constantly beautified, it was a go-to place for anyone who wanted to stand out. The smell of freshly oiled hair and fragrant shampoos drew customers from far and wide. Bella, the owner, was a reason why her salon was so popular. She was not just skilled but also enchanting. With her smooth voice, graceful movements, and confident smile, she could charm even the most skeptical client. Her hands moved fast, transforming even the dirtiest hair into beautiful braids, sleek weaves, and bold natural twists. It didn't take long for her name to spread all over the city. If you want perfection, go to Bella, people would say. Women traveled from villages and cities, sometimes waiting long hours just to sit in her chair. Even the local celebrities, radio hosts, businesswomen, and actresses counted on her to keep them looking flawless. But Bella had a secret, one that no one suspected. Hiding among her tools was an unusual comb. It was sleek and black with sharp teeth. To most of her customers, it looked like just any other styling tool, but to Bella, it was the key to her success. She called it her special comb and always insisted on using it on her clients. "Trust me," she would say to her customers with a reassuring smile. "This comb is unlike any other. It works wonders." And the fact that she always sterilized the comb before using it on any customer made them feel even more comfortable. Her clients rarely questioned her. After all, Bella's results spoke for themselves. But as she worked the combs through their heads, she remained focused, carefully collecting their hairs into the comb's teeth. To her clients, she was taking her time to braid their hair, but to her, she was fulfilling a more sinister purpose. The golden framed mirror at her station seemed to reflect a hint of something unusual in her eyes as she worked, though no one paid it much mind. No one knew what happened to the hairs left behind on the comb. No one suspected that Bella's fortune was tied to something far darker than hairstyling. And for now, her secret was safe. Bella's salon was always bustling with life during the day, but her true work began at night. While her customers gushed about how light and smooth their hair felt after her touch, Bella was quietly collecting more than compliments. As she braided and styled her clients' hair, she used her special comb to gently scrape their scalps. Most thought it was just part of the process of combing and detangling. But Bella wasn't just combing, she was harvesting. As she scraped, tiny flakes from their scalps and hair strands clung to the comb. After each session, she would carefully pluck the remnants off and discreetly wrap them in a small piece of transparent nylon, ensuring no one ever saw what she was doing. Her clients, who were oblivious to her evil plans, left the salon smiling, praising her talent. But once the last customer was gone and the salon grew quiet, Bella would gather her stash of nylon, her face gleaming with a smile of fulfillment after a long, busy day at work. Instead of taking a rest to prepare for the next day ahead, she would embark on a mysterious journey, one that fed the source of her income. The walls of her salon seemed to hold whispers, faint echoes of secrets that only Bella could understand, as if the very building conspired to guard her mysteries. At night, she would transform into someone entirely different. She would dress in a black cloak that concealed her identity and walked through the quiet streets, heading towards a forbidden forest just outside the city. The forest was known for its chilling silence and unsettling aura. Locals whispered about strange lights and unexplained sounds and dared not venture there after sunset. However, Bella was fearless. She navigated the forest with ease, weaving through the dense trees until she reached a small clearing. At the center stood an altar made of withered stone, surrounded by withered plants. The air here was heavy, the kind of stillness that would make your skin crawl. She emptied her nylon bag, filled with hairs, on the altar, then sprinkled a strange oil on the hairs and lit it with a match. Moments later, a shadowy figure appeared from the darkness. "What do you seek this time?" it asked. Bella's voice didn't waver. She simply said, fixing her bold eyes on the figure. The spirit extended a clawed hand, and in an instant, a heavy pouch of coins appeared. It tossed the pouch filled with coins to Bella, and she nodded her thanks. But just as she was about to leave, the spirit's voice stopped her. "Beware," it warned. "Greed has its price." The figure's glowing eyes seemed to linger on her as she departed, but Bella didn't care. She was already thinking of the next step in her plan. Not all the hair she collected went to the spirits. Some she kept for other uses. In her small secret room at home, she crafted crude voodoo dolls. Each doll was stuffed with hairs from a particular client, and she used them to control or punish those who annoyed her. If a client complained too much or skipped an appointment, Bella made sure they paid. The next morning, they might wake up with a splitting headache, an unexplained injury, or a stroke. She also sold some of the hairs to dark practitioners who used them in their own rituals. These sales brought her even more money, though she never knew what the hair was used for. But her most sinister act was creating cursed talismans. She would use strands of hair from her clients to design small, tiny objects like beads, bracelets, or charms and secretly slip them into a client's bag. These talismans didn't just bring bad luck. They drained the client's youth and vitality. It was why, despite her advancing years, she remained radiant and full of energy. Her reflection in the ornate mirror at her home always seemed to smile back at her with an unnatural intensity, as though it shared in her triumphs. As the nights turned into weeks and the weeks into months, Bella's wealth grew, her salon flourished, and her beauty became the envy of the city. In no time, her newfound success became the talk of the town. It began with whispers in the city. "Have you heard? Bella just bought the latest luxury car." Soon after, people noticed her driving around in a black SUV, the kind only the wealthiest men and women in the city could afford. But this was just the beginning. Within months, she had built a mansion outside the city. It was a sight to behold: massive gates, marbled floors, and crystal chandeliers that sparkled like stars. Her home became the talk of the town, a symbol of success. Everyone envied her. Her salon, too, saw an unprecedented rise in popularity. What was once a small, bustling business now became the most sought after salon in the entire city. The praise poured in endlessly. "Bella is a genius," one client said. "No one else can make my hair look this good." Others marveled at her humility despite her sudden wealth. To many, she was a role model, an example of what hard work could achieve. Despite the praises Bella received, some groups of people refused to be blinded by her sudden wealth. Even though her salon was doing well, It wasn't just lucrative enough to bring the kind of money Bella was now swimming in. How could she become so rich so quickly? Some questioned, others noted her strange behavior, how she never allowed anyone to touch her comb, or how she seemed overly protective of the hairs left behind. However, Bella had an answer for everything. When asked about her wealth, she would laugh lightly and say, "Hard work and blessings, my dear." Her charm was disarming, and her generosity made it too hard to doubt her. She donated to orphanages, paid school fees for the needy, and gifted her loyal clients expensive hampers during festive seasons. Her generosity silenced most critics. Why would someone so kind and giving have anything to hide? They reasoned. And so Bella continued to rise, her secrets buried beneath layers of charms and smiles. But how long could she keep the truths hidden? As she continued with her evil practices, the effects started taking a toll on her customers. At first, it was subtle. A few clients mentioned feeling unusually tired after their appointments. "Maybe it's just the heat," Bella would say with a charming smile, dismissing their concerns. But soon, the problems became too strange to ignore. It started with Zuri, a loyal customer who visited Bella's salon every 2 weeks. One morning, Zuri woke up to find clumps of hair on her pillow. Shocked, she ran her fingers through her scalp, only to feel smooth patches where her thick braids used to be. Panic set in as the hair loss continued over the next few days. Doctors were baffled. There was no medical explanation for her experience. Another client, Tami, developed chronic migraines. The pain started the night after her appointment and refused to go away. "It feels like something is crawling inside my head," she confided to a friend. No amount of medication helped, and soon sleepless nights became her norm. Ife, a young woman who had gone to Bella's salon for a wedding, started noticing itchy rashes spreading along her scalp and neck. At first, she thought it was just an allergic reaction, but the rashes grew into painful sores. Doctors prescribed creams and antibiotics, but nothing worked. The sores only worsened, leaving her in tears every night. The mirror she used to admire her braids now reflected a face of despair, her once bright eyes clouded with sorrow. While some customers experienced strange occurrences in their bodies, others were met with terrible nightmares. Many clients reported waking in cold sweats after seeing Bella in their dreams. She was always holding her comb, her face twisted into a sinister grin as she chased them into a dark forest. One client, Lami, described a dream where she was trapped in a forest surrounded by tall, shadowy figures. They whispered her name while Bella stood at the center, laughing. "I felt like I couldn't escape," she said, trembling, as she recounted the experience to her friend. "And when I woke up, it felt like she was still watching me." Then there was Said, who suffered the most terrifying ordeal. After getting her hair braided by Bella, she became severely ill. It started with a fever, but soon she felt an unbearable crawling sensation on her scalp, as if tiny creatures were burrowing into her skin. "There's something alive in my head," she screamed, scratching until her scalp bled. Her family rushed her to the hospital, but doctors found nothing. Yet Said kept crying and groaning in pain until her family began to wonder if she had lost her mind. The whispers in the hallways of the hospital hinted at something unexplainable, a force beyond their understanding. These strange and horrifying incidents spread like wildfire. Friends warned each other, whispering in harsh tones about Bella's salon. "It's cursed," someone said. "There's something wrong with her comb." But not everyone believed it. Many were too dazzled by Bella's charm and flawless hairstyles to question her. "It's just bad luck," they argued. "How could someone so talented and generous be behind all this?" Still, the rumors intensified, and so did the fear. Bella, for her part, acted as though nothing was wrong. She continued to greet her clients with her radiant smile and warm voice. But beneath her calm demeanor, she knew the truth. Her rituals were working too well, and the consequences were beginning to spiral out of control. The once vibrant atmosphere of her salon now carried an eerie silence at the end of each day, as if the walls themselves absorbed the weight of her secrets. However, things began to turn against Bella when one of her loyal customers, Temi, fell ill after an appointment at her salon. Temi woke up one morning only to find herself bald, the same experience Zuri had. She also experienced terrible nightmares but tried to dismiss them, blaming it on stress and the African magic movie she had watched that night. But as she shared her experiences with others, she began to notice a pattern. A friend admitted that she had lost patches of hair after visiting the salon. Another mentioned headaches that wouldn't go away. After hearing similar stories from others, Temi's curiosity turned into determination. One evening, Temi made up her mind to find out the reason behind all the strange occurrences. She decided she would follow Bella to see if she was truly hiding something. She knew Bella often stayed late at the salon. That day, she waited in the shadows outside, and around midnight, she saw Bella step out, clutching a small nylon bag. Temi held her breath as she trailed her carefully, making sure not to get caught. The journey was long, but Temi vowed never to give up. The moonlight cast eerie shadows on the streets, adding to the tension of her pursuit as she clutched a small charm for courage. Bella walked briskly through deserted streets until she reached the outskirts of the city. The moon cast a pale glow on the cracked pavement, adding an eerie ambience to her hurried steps. Temi hesitated when she saw her enter a narrow path that led into a dense forest, but she pushed forward, her curiosity outweighing her fears. The path was littered with dry leaves and broken twigs, crunching softly underfoot. Deep in the forest, Temi hid behind a tree and watched as Bella placed the nylon bag on the ground and began muttering strange words. Moments later, the air shifted and a dark figure emerged from the shadows. Its form was barely human, its movements fluid and unnatural. Temi's breath caught in her throat as she strained to hear their conversation. "You have brought enough this time," the shadowy spirit said, its voice echoing like whispers carried by the wind. "The wealth you seek will grow, but you must bring me more hair and more souls." Bella nodded as she handed over the bag, her hands trembling slightly, and the spirit disappeared into the darkness. Temi couldn't believe what she had just witnessed. Her body trembled as she realized the truth. Bella's wealth and fame were built on something far darker than hard work. Temi knew she had to act, but how could she expose someone so powerful? And who would believe her? As she quietly slipped away, her mind raced with questions she had no answers to. The forest seemed to close in around her, every shadow and rustle amplifying her fear. However, she was determined to expose Bella. Temi decided to gather concrete evidence. She followed Bella again, this time recording everything she saw with her phone, and patiently waited for the right time to expose her. The perfect opportunity came on a busy Saturday afternoon when Bella's salon was packed with clients who were laughing and chatting together, their voices blending into a lively hum. Temi walked in and waited patiently until all eyes were on her. Bella began, "It's time for the truth." The room fell silent. Bella turned to her, her smile slowly fading away. "What truth are you talking about, Temi?" she asked, her tone laced with suspicion. "The truth about what you have been doing to all of us," Temi said, pulling out her phone. She played the video for everyone to see. Gasps filled the room as the clients watched in horror. "That's not all," Temi continued, walking toward a small cabinet in the corner. She flung it open to reveal dozens of nylon bags stuffed with hair and scalp particles. The faint, sickly odor wafting from the bags made some clients gag. "This is what she has been collecting from us. This is how she has been growing her wealth." The salon erupted in chaos. Clients screamed, some in anger, others in fear. "How could you do this to us?" One woman yelled, tears streaming down her face. Another tried to lunge at Bella, but others held her back. Bella's composure cracked. Bella's composure cracked. "You don't understand," she shouted, her voice desperate. "I only wanted to succeed. I had no choice." "Stop lying," Tami shouted back. "You used us, Bella. You hurt us for your greed." As the crowd closed in on her, Bella's eyes darted around the room. Suddenly, the air grew thick and an unnatural wind swept through the salon. Lights flickered and a cold chill ran down everyone's spine. Before anyone could react, Bella let out a piercing scream and vanished into thin air, leaving nothing behind but a glittering comb. The salon fell into stone silence. The clients stared at the spot where Bella had stood moments ago, their anger replaced by fear. Temi bent down and picked up the comb. "Her powers came from this," she said, holding it up for everyone to see. "But now it's over." Word of Bella's downfall spread quickly. Her mansion, once a symbol of luxury, was abandoned, its gates rusted shut, and her luxury cars left untouched, collecting dust and cobwebs. Her once famous salon became a ghost town, its windows boarded up and its walls covered in graffiti. Though no one saw her again, the city would never forget the price they paid for her greed and the bravery of one woman who refused to stay silent. The aftermath of Bella's exposure left the city shaken. Many of her former clients slowly began to recover. Their hair grew back, their nightmares faded, and the strange illnesses disappeared. But for others, the damage was permanent. Some bore scars on their scalps, while others lived with the lingering fear that they would never fully escape the curse. Her comb was later burned and its ashes thrown into the river under the watchful eyes of the community. The story of Bella, the enchanted stylist, spread far beyond the city. Parents told it to their children, warning them never to use a salon comb. From that day onward, people started going to salons with their personal combs, needles, and even towels. Though Bella was gone, her tale will live on for generations. The moral of the story is to teach us the importance of taking our personal hygiene seriously. We should cultivate the habit of going to the salon with our own personal items, such as combs or even needles, in order not to expose ourselves to hidden dangers. In order not to expose ourselves to hidden dangers, it also brings to mind the danger of greed and selfishness, because true greatness lies in honesty, kindness, and genuine efforts, and not in exploiting others. The story of Bella teaches us a profound and chilling lesson about personal hygiene, trust, and the dangers of unchecked greed. It reminds us to be vigilant about our personal belongings, especially when visiting salons or similar establishments. Taking your own combs, needles, and other personal items to a salon may seem like a small precaution, but it is an essential step to protect yourself from potential harm or hidden dangers. Beyond hygiene, Bella's tale also reveals the devastating consequences of greed and selfishness. Her desire for wealth and power led her to exploit the trust and well-being of others, ultimately resulting in her downfall. True greatness is not found in taking advantage of others, but in honesty, kindness, and hard work. As we reflect on this cautionary tale, let it serve as a reminder to prioritize integrity and personal safety in all aspects of life. Thank you for watching, and be sure to explore more intriguing and thought-provoking stories on this channel. After hearing this tale, you'll never go to a salon without your comb and personal items again. Stay curious and stay safe. As she entered, a hush fell over the room. Her classmates stared at her with a mixture of disgust and pity. Leela's heart began to rise. What was going on? Leela was the star student of Mayfair Heights Academy, an all-girls secondary school known for its high standards. At 15 years old, she stood out not only for her striking beauty, but also for her intelligence. Leela had always been at the top of her class, working hard to maintain her position as the most brilliant student. Every day, Leela would wake up early, put on her neat school uniform, and head to school with determination in her eyes. Her long black hair was always neatly tied in two-top buns, and her face glowed with natural beauty that required no makeup. As she walked through the school gates, heads would turn and whispers would follow. "There goes Leela," the other girls would say. Always perfect, always the best. But Leela paid no attention to these comments. Her focus was solely on her studies. In class, she sat at the front, eagerly absorbing every word the teacher said. Her hand was always the first to shoot up when a question was asked, and her answers were always correct. However, Leela's beauty was becoming a distraction. Even the teachers found themselves staring at her during lessons. Mr. Bennett, the mathematics teacher, often stumbled over his words when explaining problems to Leela. Mrs. Hart, the literature teacher, couldn't help but admire Leela's graceful handwriting and thoughtful essays. Despite the attention, Leela remained oblivious. After school, while other students rushed home or to their various clubs, Leela would stay back in the classroom. She'd pull out her books, spread them on her desk, and dive into her studies. The large windows framed the evening sky, painting her workspace in hues of orange and pink. One evening, as the sun was setting and casting long shadows across the empty classroom, Leela was deeply engrossed in her literature textbook. She didn't notice when someone entered the room. "Leela, you're still here?" a voice called out. Leela looked up to see Priya, one of her classmates, standing at the door. "Oh, hi, Priya," Leela said with a smile. "Yes, just finishing up some extra reading." Priya walked over to Leela's desk. her eyes scanning the pile of books. She shook her head and let out a small laugh. Leela, she said, if I was as beautiful as you, I wouldn't stress myself studying all the time. You could easily get favors from the teachers who admire you. Leela's eyebrows furrowed in confusion. What do you mean? Priya grinned mischievously. Haven't you noticed how the teachers look at you? Especially Mr. Bennet and Miss Hart. You could probably get good grades without all this extra work. Leela was shocked. She had never thought about using her looks for any advantage. But that wouldn't be right, she protested. Priya shrugged. It's just a thought. Anyway, I'm heading home. Don't stay too late, okay? As Priya left, Leela sat there, her mind swirling with this new idea. She had always believed in hard work and honesty. But was Priya right? Could life be easier if she used her beauty to her advantage? With these thoughts weighing on her mind, Leela packed up her books and headed home. The streets were quiet as she walked, the street lights casting a soft glow on the pavement. She couldn't shake off Priya's words, and for the first time she began to see her beauty as something more than just a physical attribute. When Leela reached home, her parents greeted her with warm smiles. They were proud of their daughter's achievements and had always encouraged her studies. But tonight, Leela was distracted. During dinner, her mind still pondered over Priya's suggestion. In her room, instead of opening her books as she usually did, Leela stood in front of her mirror. She studied her reflection, noting her clear skin, bright eyes, and gentle features. Had she been blind to the power she held? As she lay in bed that night, Leela made a decision. Tomorrow, she would try something different. She would see if Priya was right about the power of her beauty. Little did Leela know, this decision would set in motion a series of events that would change her life forever. The next morning, Leela woke up earlier than usual. She stood in front of her mirror, hesitating for a moment before reaching for her makeup kit, a birthday gift she had never used. With trembling hands, she applied a light layer of foundation, a touch of blush, and a swipe of lip gloss. She let her hair down, allowing it to fall in soft waves around her shoulders. As Leela walked into the school compound, she could feel the difference immediately. More heads turned than usual, and the whisper seemed louder. Even some of the teachers did a double take as she passed by. In Mr. Bennet's math class, Leela decided to put Priya's suggestion to the test. When the teacher handed out a surprise quiz, Leela felt a moment of panic. She hadn't studied for this, but then she remembered Priya's words. As Mr. Bennet collected the papers, Leela looked up at him and smiled sweetly. Mr. Bennet, she said softly, I hope I did well on the quiz. I really want to maintain my good grades in your class. Mr. Bennet seemed flustered. I'm sure you did fine, Leela. You're my best student, after all. The next day, when Mr. Bennet returned the graded quizzes, Leela was surprised to see a perfect score on her paper. She knew she hadn't answered all the questions correctly. Could Priya have been right? Encouraged by this, Leela tried the same approach with other teachers. A smile here, a kind word there, and suddenly she found herself getting good grades on tests she hadn't studied for. At first, it felt like a relief. She could finally get some rest instead of staying up all night studying. As the days passed, Leela found herself relying more and more on her looks. She studied less, confident that a smile or a flutter of her eyelashes would be enough to maintain her top position. And for a while, it worked. But Leela didn't notice the growing resentment among her classmates. Girls who had once admired her now whispered behind her back. They saw how the teachers favored her, how she seemed to breeze through tests without the hard work they all put in. Priya watched all of this with a mixture of satisfaction and jealousy. She had set this plan in motion, but she hadn't expected Leela to be so successful at it. As Leela's grades stayed high, while her study time decreased, Priya's envy grew. One afternoon, as Leela was leaving school, she overheard two teachers talking in an empty classroom. She paused outside the door, listening. "Have you noticed how Leela's been acting lately?" It was Mrs. Hart's voice. "Yes, it's quite a change," replied Mr. Bennet. "She seems to be using her charms more. It's becoming a problem." Miss Hart said, "The other students are starting to complain. They think we're showing favoritism." "Well, can you blame us?" Mr. Bennet chuckled. "She's a beautiful young woman, but you're right, we need to be careful. Maybe we can lure her to a hotel during the weekend. Deal with her outside the school premises." Leela's heart raced as she hurried away from the door. For the first time, she felt a twinge of guilt and fear. What had she gotten herself into? That night, Leela couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, thinking about what she had heard. The teachers were noticing her behavior, and they seemed to expect something in return for their favors. This wasn't what she had intended when she started this experiment. The next day at school, Leela felt uncomfortable under the gaze of her teachers. Every smile, every compliment now seemed loaded with expectation. She realized that she had opened a door she didn't know how to close. She remembered the days before this experiment, the long nights of studying, the satisfaction of earning her grades honestly. Those memories now felt like a distant dream. After school, Leela sought out Priya. She found her friend lounging under a tree in the schoolyard, scrolling through her phone. "Priya, I need to talk to you," Leela said, her voice trembling slightly. Priya looked up, a slight smile on her face. "What's up, beauty queen? Enjoying your new life? I think I've made a mistake." The teachers. They're starting to want more than just smiles for the favors they're doing me. "What do you mean?" Priya asked. "I overheard them talking." Leela explained. "They're expecting something from me. I don't know what to do. This has gone too far." Priya was quiet for a moment. Then she leaned in close. "Listen, Leela, you've come this far. Don't back out now. If the teachers want more, give them what they want." Leela recoiled in shock. "What? No, I can't do that." "Why not?" Priya pressed. "It's just a little further. Think about all the benefits you've been getting. Do you want to give that up?" "No, Priya. This is wrong. I never should have started this. I'm going to stop it now." As Leela walked away, she didn't see the dark look that crossed Priya's face. She didn't know that her decision to stop would set off a chain of events that would turn her life upside down. The next morning, Leela woke up determined to set things right. She tied her hair back in its usual two ponytails and went to school without any makeup. She was ready to face the consequences of her actions and return to her old ways of hard work and honesty. But as soon as she stepped into the school compound, she knew something was wrong. Students were gathered in small groups, whispering and pointing at her. Confused and worried, Leela made her way to her classroom. As she entered, a hush fell over the room. Her classmates stared at her with a mixture of disgust and pity. Leela's heart began to rise. What was going on? It was Priya who finally broke the silence. Well, well, she said loudly. If it isn't our model student, or should I say, little hoe. Leela felt as if she had been slapped. What are you talking about? Priya stood up, a cruel smile on her face. Oh, come on, Leela. Everyone knows what you've been doing to get those good grades. Sleeping with the teachers. That's low, even for you. Lila's world seemed to spin. That's not true, she cried out. I never did anything like that. But her protest fell on deaf ears. The rumor had spread like wildfire through the school. Just then, Miss Agatha, the school principal, appeared at the classroom door. Her face was stern and her voice cold as she said, Leela, come with me to my office immediately. As Leela followed Miss Agatha through the corridors, she could feel the stares of everyone they passed. Tears welled up in her eyes. In the principal's office, Miss Agatha didn't mince words. Leela, I've heard some very disturbing rumors about your behavior with male teachers. This is a serious accusation. But it's not true, Leela pleaded. I never did anything like that. Yes, I tried to use my looks to get better grades, but I never went further than that. I swear. Miss Agatha's expression remained hard. Whether it's true or not, the damage has been done. Parents are calling, threatening to withdraw their children if you remain in the school. You've become a liability, Leela. Leela felt as if the floor had dropped out from under her. What? What does that mean? It means, Miss Agatha said with a sigh, that we have no choice but to expel you from Mayfair Heights Academy. The words hit Leela like a physical blow. Expelled. Her perfect record, her dreams of graduating at the top of her class, all gone in an instant. As Leela left the principal's office, her world in shambles, she saw Priya standing in the corridor, a triumphant smirk on her face. In that moment, Leela realized the full extent of her friend's betrayal. The next few days passed in a blur of tears and arguments. Leela's parents were devastated by the news of her expulsion. They didn't believe the rumors, but they were angry and disappointed that Leela had tried to use her looks for academic gain. We raised you better than this, her father said, his voice heavy with disappointment. Leela's mother was more practical. We need to find you a new school, she said. You can't let this setback ruin your future. And so, after days of searching, they finally found a school that would accept a transfer student. Leela's parents managed to enroll her in Ika High School, a public school that was a far cry from the prestigious Mayfair Heights Academy. As Leela stood at the gates of Ika High School on her first day, she felt like a different person. The confident, top of the class Leela was gone, replaced by a girl who felt lost and alone. But as she took a deep breath and stepped into the school compound, she made a silent vow to herself. This was her second chance, a chance to prove that she was more than just a pretty face, a chance to show the world and herself that she could succeed on her own merits. Little did Leela know that her journey at Ika High School would bring its own set of challenges and revelations. This was just the beginning of Leela's story. Leela's story teaches us a profound lesson about the value of honesty, hard work, and staying true to ourselves in the face of temptation. Her journey serves as a warning about the risks of taking shortcuts and relying on superficial traits instead of genuine effort. By attempting to use her beauty for personal gain, she not only damaged her reputation, but also faced consequences that affected her dreams and relationships. This story reminds us that while appearances may provide temporary advantages, they can